Hello everyone, in today's lab I'm going to show you all how to create transparent um, textures. So basically what I mean by that is in our example we're going to do a leaf. So if you were to create a single leaf, instead of having to model with all the polygons around, and creating all that, especially if you have a lot of leaves you need to do, for instance, um, this could be a much better solution to keep your poly count much lower, but still have a super effective result in terms of how it basically just how it looks. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and dive right into it. So the last one I did in Autodesk Maya 2019, the video in Canvas below this one, same exact thing. This is just an updated version, and just in case anything's changed from the last 2019 version. I don't think so, but I will run into it today. I just adjusted my timeline, so I have 0 through 24. We're not animating anything in this, but regardless, so I've included a new image, and I'm going to just show you how I got to the transparent. So there will be two images. One's going to say leaf transparency texture. The other one's just going to say like leaf texture. But I want to show you how I got rid of the background on it to make it transparent to begin with. So in Photoshop, this is the old one. You feel free to use this one. This one's fine as well, but I do want to show you how I got rid of this background. And here's the new one. I just wanted to do something different. So some of the new tools in Photoshop kind of confused me at first. So I went to my selection tool thinking that this would work, but I think this is that new AI filler kind of tool. So I've yet to really dabble with that at all, but I'm sure it's a lot of fun. So I realized this isn't the tool I'm looking for. Okay, so I just hit deselect. Now, the tool I'm going to be using for this is going to be directly under it. If you click and hold, and then instead of doing object selection tool, we're going to do, it's the fourth one down from the top left. We're going to do quick selection tool, and keyboard shortcut for that is W. So with that tool on, you can go ahead and change, the size and all that kind of stuff, and the little plus is to add, and the other one subtract from your selection. But I have this leaf here, and I'm just going to dive right into this. I'm going to go ahead and click and drag this down. And now I've just made a copy of my background called background copy. Now it automatically defaults to that. So I don't really need the original anymore, but I always like to keep the original in there. So I'm going to rename it just original. Original's fine, or original leaf. Oop. And click OK. Now, with that being said, I can hide this, which I'm going to do for now, and then I'm going to go back to my background copy, or transparency leaf. I think I spelled that right. And then under my quick selection tool, with that selected, I'm just going to go ahead and simply click around, and you're going to notice how it constantly just snaps to around it. And it's easy with this image because the entire background is white. There's other ways to do something like this, and it's already done. It's just like literally a click. So if I press Control D, I'll show you that one more time. Clicking and dragging. If I just drag this around, it just snaps to it. And now I've got my selection. Now I can delete that selection and press Control and D for deselect. And now you'll see I've got this leaf. Now the other thing I want to do, what I really, really like to do, and I'm not going to do too many more, I'm probably not going to do really any more adjustments to this. However, I'm going to create a separate layer, and I'm going to grab my paint bucket tool. I hope this is not the gradient tool. All right, so keyboard shortcut G, instead of the gradient tool, we're going to go to our paint bucket tool. I have my color selected to black, and you can see the little imperfections around it. There are ways to go around and fix that. I'm not too concerned with it. I just think this is really useful to know on how to do, but I don't want to spend too much time on Photoshop on this. This is going to work more than, be more than enough substantial for this assignment. But I do also have this one in here as well. Now, just out of curiosity, let's do a black background. And this one's a little bit sharper in terms of the leaf itself, but no big deal. All right, so I'm going to use this one for this lab this time, but you know, feel free to look at the old one. You can even use the new leaf or the old leaf, whatever. But I'm going to be using this one just for fun. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to hide that background. I'm going to keep it for now. Black background. And I'm going to save this image out. First, I'm going to save the Photoshop file. So File, Save As, or Control-Shift-S. Go to my desktop, locate where you want to save it, Lab 20, and this is going to be Great Leaf image. Save. The next thing I'm going to do after I save the Photoshop file, and I do that just in case the software crashes for whatever reason because I'm running too much stuff in the background. Maybe I've got my Netflix on one screen and I've got my Maya on this screen, and then I'm running Photoshop and I've got Google and Microsoft Word, and I've got all these processes happening in the background. Always good to save. So that's just a friendly reminder. Always save. Remember to save copies so you don't lose all that work you've done. So now in Photoshop, one last thing I need to do is I got to go to File. I'm going to do an export, and I'm going to just do quick export as PNG. And you know what? Let's just see what happens with it. Hit desktop. Lab 20. And we'll hit save. And I want to see just by default if it actually does that. So I switched back to Maya. I saved out my PNG. I saved out the Photoshop file. And now all I'm going to do is in Maya is I'm going to create a polyplane. Now on this polyplane, what you can do is change your subdivision width and height to 1. So now instead of having 10 and 10, I've just cut my topology by basically 100%, right? 90%. So now I've only got one polygon, right? Instead of a whole lot of them. Now this is really useful because I'm just going to drag that up. And 12 is fine, and then I want to just rotate it for us at 90 degrees. Okay, so there is my polygon. Now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to hold right click. I'm going to assign a new material. This time I'm going to do a blend, and then in my blend, leaf transparent blend material. I'm going to go to my color, go to File, open it. You guys all know how to do this. And I think it was this one. Nope. This one. Open. And tap 6 on your keyboard just in case you forgot. Now you'll see my blend, it's still got specularity, but you see my leaf there, right? Now, the one thing I forgot to mention is that this is fine and dandy, and we can turn down our eccentricity. Now you can't see any of that, and it's just that leaf, which is really neat. So that's super cool. But let's say I create a light. And let's do Arnold lights. Let's do a physical sky. And now I do an Arnold render. It has this black out background on it, right? It's not coming out transparent. The other thing I forgot to mention is I feel like this might be a little distorted. Maybe my eyes are playing a trick on me, but I'm going to go to Photoshop. Press Control- to zoom out. And the reason it's doing that is because my square on my UV map on Photoshop, you guys should be able to see where I'm going with this. it's scrunching my image. So the image on my Photoshop file, if I go to image, canvas size is 1280 by 960. So the other one, the one in Maya, it's going to be all on forms of like 256 by 256. Let's just, for simplicity, this one's going to be 1024 by 1024. So you'll see that what's happening is it's stretching it longer ways to match it, and then it's shorting it. So I was right. So it's taking that image size, making it compressed to fit this square, even though the dimensions aren't accurate. So it's basically doing a little squash and stretch to fit inside that image. So I want to change it. And let's just see if I can do it the easy way. Let's do 1024 by 1024. And let's click OK and see what happens. Let's hit proceed and see what happens. So that's better. That's going to work perfectly fine. The clipping that happened was on my black background. That's fine. I'm just going to delete it, create a new one using my paint bucket tool, and then hide it. But now I'm also going to save this out again. And I'm also going to do a file export quick PNG, and I'm going to do it on that image. Hit save. Yes, I want to replace it. Go back into Maya, and it auto refreshed. But in case it didn't, you would go over here and hit reload. So now that I've got that said and done, the problem we're still running into is, and actually you'll see the difference now, it's no longer being squashed and stretched to fit that scene or that UV map. So the problem I'm running into, let's just go right back to it, is that our scene, and let's turn the brightness up on this. Let's change it to 5 on intensity, and let's just do a quick one more render. You'll see that I'm just not getting, and on here under the blend, let's change the specular roll off to 0 and the reflectivity to 0, because I feel like it was just, there we go. So now you get a little bit more clear image instead of having some of that specularity do it. But that being said, we are just running into a transparency issue, and that's the problem using the render with Arnold and really any other software that we going into. Some of them can read that PNG and maybe do a live render, but just so you know how to do it the right way, we're going to show you right now. So I'm going to create another polyplane. In fact, I can, oh, it doesn't matter, I could have duplicated it, but let's just create a new one. Oops. X 90. Something like that. And then, whoops. Scooch that out of the way. 12.762. I'll make them identical. And then move this over to 15. Just to keep it nice, neat, and clean. All right, so now on this one, I'm going to assign a new material. And this time I'm going to use the AI standard surface under the Arnold tab. AI standard surface. And then this is going to be leaf transparent Arnold material. Okay. Now, the issue I'm going to run into this is still going to be kind of the same thing. So, what do I do? So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add my color, but I also need to find one more thing. try it under the opacity map. I'm pretty sure that's where I put it. So we need to create a basically like an alpha mask for this thing. And I'm going to start this by assigning the original color. And you'll see this one in Maya. Let's add this to a layer. I think this is physical sky. That's what it is. Okay. So even though I imported the same PNG image, you'll see that this one actually has this background. It's the same exact image. It's just how it's importing. Now, you'll see that they read a little bit differently. This has different settings set to make it appear that way. A little bit brighter, and this one's a little bit darker, but we're just going to keep moving forward with this. So now that I have my image in here, I want to create basically what's called an alpha mask. And I'm going to go back into, not Maya, Photoshop. And that black background that we created before, I'm going to go ahead back into this Photoshop file. Now I'm going to hold Control, and then I'm going to click the little picture here, and you're going to see that it selects the entire thing. Now that while that's selected, I'm going to create a new layer, and this one's going to be called, I don't know, white leaf. And I'm going to change the color to white, and on that new layer, I'm going to simply paint it on, and then I'm going to hide the old layer, and I'm going to press Control D. And now I should have a perfectly clear little, I mean, it's a little fuzzy but around the edges, but I'm not too overly concerned about it. Here is my alpha layer mask, basically. This is going to be my alpha. So I'm going to save this one out. File, save as. I guess I'm going to save the Photoshop file as it is. And then File, Export. This one, I can do an export as. I don't want it to have, it should, let's just try the quick export. And this is going to be alpha image. And now let's go back into our Maya, and we're going to go back to this attribute editor. And under the opacity, I'm going to go ahead and click here, go to File, locate the image, where is it? Alpha, open. And now you'll see that I have that black background instead of the white background that was on it just a moment ago, because now I've basically told Maya anything in that white region under the opacity map that I just did is going to be able to be seen, and anything on the black part is going to be invisible. But we still can't tell. It kind of looks weird. So let's go ahead and go to Arnold and render. Oh, I need my light in the scene. And let's see what it turns out to be. So now it's actually, which is really neat, now you'll see that they're kind of opposites, right? This has the black background and this one doesn't. This one's transparent in the viewport and this one isn't. That's really cool because you used to have to play around with a couple more settings in previous versions, and now it's just doing it for us, which is great. So when I hit play or render, you'll see now I've got that background disappeared. So that's all I need for the assignment. Just submit me an image of a transparent leaf. You could keep both of them in the scene. I'd like to see one with even a screenshot. Oh, I forgot to make this 0 and 0, or 1 and 1. as a matter of fact, just submit a screenshot like that just so I could see. But even if you do it, I already showed you how to do it once. You'll see that I want to be able to see the outline of it in at least one of your images. And I need to see the render of it with the clear background on it. Now, with that being said, whoops. One last thing I'd like to show you is if I go to render here and I go to viewport 2.0 and I hit the little settings box, let's see. No. Just want to see. Transparency algorithm as object sorting. Let's go down to alpha cut. And now you can see in your viewport here, and let's just turn that light on and make sure it didn't do anything weird to our render. Nope. Now, one last thing. I hope that's Arnold render. I want that to be smaller. So, one last thing. I hope you were able to see all that with the big full screen on there. I didn't realize. You'll see that I've got this transparent and this has the black background as they were opposites before. But now we can actually see it by going back to our viewport and instead of having that object sorting, we just put it to alpha cut. So, all right, now one last thing. Just in case, let's see if it's even still in here. I'm just running a quick test. Okay, so it's working really, really well. Now, if you do run into anything, for whatever reason, in previous versions, you'd have to hit this little opaque for it. So if your render is still coming up with the black background on it, even though mine wasn't, try going back into your attribute editor on your model and turn that off, and it should work if you run into that issue. That's what you used to have to do. And also, in case you're using an older version of Maya for whatever reason, that opaque button may be the difference between getting this to render with the proper transparency rather than not. So be sure to message me if you have any questions. I don't think this was too difficult to follow along with. If you do have any questions, you know I'm here to answer them as quickly as possible. And I hope you enjoyed the lab. Just submit a render. You could keep one here with the black background and then one with, oh, that's super cool. I didn't even know you could do that. You can actually select your objects right in here. Anyway, so with that being said, if you do have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to me. I hope you enjoyed this lab, and just for fun, that's all you need for your submission. Just for fun, let me create, and check the grading rubric, of course. I just want to show you. So if I took this one, all right, let's just do this. Okay. Now let's put this on a layer. And let's just say I want to change my pivot point. Oh. Holding D and V. Right to there. Now if I hold Shift and press D, and let's just say I rotate this a little bit. Right? You could do something like that on your branch. And now I got something happening on these. I think I just got to play around with my specularity real quick. Hold on. Now all these are on the same material, so specular, that should do it. Yeah. And then you'll see you got these couple little leaves, and I just wanted to give you a good example of how you could utilize this. But instead of taking a polyplane and then trying to manipulate, you know, cutting and modeling your own leaf, and I'm just going to do something really basic. And let's just say this was the leaf I was doing, right? Instead of going through all this trouble modeling the leaf and then texturing it and creating the UVs and doing all that, you can do it much faster. And I know this is a rough leaf, but instead of going through all this pain and agony of trying to model a leaf, now you could just do it. You know, when you go through all these different, you know, shapes and all that kind of stuff to get to that point, you would essentially just be saving so much time. But anyway, it's just a quick little trick. You know, when you're trying to model out anything, you know, it can take some time. So this could really save you time. This is me trying to create like a special kind of leaf. I'll delete this one. It's terrible, but anyway, you get the idea. Instead of going through and creating all these little creases here, right? And creating your own model of a leaf and all that kind of stuff, just create one polyplane and then create your texture, and now you can get something really, really neat. You know, there's infinite possibilities. You could do this with grass. You could do this with so many different things. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed the lab. I hope you can find a really, really great, useful way to utilize this skill. And again, I'm going to say it again and again. If you have any questions, just shoot me a message. Other than that, hope you enjoyed the video. And I'll see you next time. Thank you so much.